Hi there. It's been a while since I've seen you guys. Maybe not actually, because I've continued to post videos, but it's been over 2 months since I filmed a video or even did an art show. In my last video, you might remember my van got into a hit-and-run accident, and dealing with that over the past 2.5 months has been a major headache. It took the insurance company nearly 2 months to decide that my van was a total loss, and in that time I had to cancel 2 shows, which was a huge bummer to me because one of them was my absolute best show of the year last year, and the other one is my most favorite show of the entire year to do. And it left me really scrambling to try and figure out a way to get to my next show, which is coming up next week in Denver, Colorado. I'm heading out for the Cherry Creek Arts Festival for the very first time. I've applied to that show for 15 years, and this year was the first year that I got in. I love Colorado. I haven't been to Colorado since I was 19 years old, more than half my life ago. So I'm looking forward to going out there, checking out this new show, and hopefully making up for some of the lost income that I lost by not doing those 2 shows this past month. And also having to replace my van ended up costing me a bunch of money too, because even though I was fully insured and covered for my old van, I still had to spend about $15,000 more to get this van. Thankfully, I was able to salvage most of the build out in the van so that I didn't really have to spend a ton of money building the new interior of my van. I took the old build out of my old van and it fit right into the new van pretty well. I actually was able to salvage about 99% of it. I had fully intended to make a whole video about taking out the old build and putting it in the new van, but I only got this van about a week ago, and that left me only about 10 days to get it ready to leave to go to Denver for the show. So taking time to film videos is very time consuming and would have really set me back, and I may not have been done in time to make it to the show, so I scrapped that idea. I'll put a link in the description to the video I made building out my old van so you can check that out and maybe get some ideas for building your art van. One of the most important things to do when building out a van is to put in a partition between the cargo area and where you drive in the van. I installed this one and the one in my old van. You can have someone install it professionally if you're not that handy. I see so many artists driving around without a partition, and it's just so dangerous. This is what protects you and keeps things from sliding up from the back and hitting you in the head, or worse if you get rear-ended, from coming up and crushing you. Artists have died by not having a partition in their van, so it's extremely important, and if you don't have one in your van, please, today, go get one. The cost of this hit-and-run accident is something that was keeping me up at night for a while. I was upset about, first of all, the accident in general, having to spend money on replacing my van, and the lost income from having to cancel those shows was really the big hit to me. A lot of people might not realize that doing art festivals is a unique way to make an income, in that we only have so many weekends in a year in which to make a full-time income. So losing just one weekend of a show might be the equivalent of a person who works a typical 9-to-5 job losing an entire month and a half of work. And it really also irks me that someone just ran into the back of my van and then drove off. And this has cost me an immense amount of money and time and frustration. However, I did try my best to turn that into a positive. Over the past 2.5 months, I was able to spend a lot more time with my family than I probably would have if I had gone out of state to do those 2 shows. We took Milo on actually 2 weekend trips up to Disney, so we had a lot of fun together and spent a lot of good quality family time, which is also making the fact that I have to leave in a few days to go all the way out to Colorado from Florida a real bummer for me, because I've just had such non-stop good quality family time, and now having to leave for 10 days or so to do the show is it's kind of tough on me. But this short time away does allow me to spend huge chunks of time at home with my family, and I'm really thankful for that. So I've got to finish loading up the van and just finishing putting the last touches on the van so I can get out to Colorado. So let's go. So it never really ends over here. I drove about 550 miles last night. I'm somewhere in the middle of Georgia, and all of a sudden the check engine light in my new van started flashing and it started shaking a bit. So I quickly Googled a Ford service center, and thank goodness about 2 miles from where I was this huge Ford service fleet center. So now I'm here waiting for them to check out the van. They ran a diagnostic on it and said that I have misfires in a bunch of the cylinders. So they're going to replace the ignition coils. They don't know if that's the problem, but they said that's the first place to start. So the problems keep mounting up here, but I guess looking at the bright side, at least I was right next to a big Ford service center, but that doesn't really help me feel much better right at the moment.
One eternity later.
As you can probably tell, I'm not in Colorado.
Huh. Expected the Rocky Mountains to be a little rockier than this. I was thinking the same thing.
I'm actually on my way back home to South Florida. As it turns out, my brand new van that I just bought exactly 2 weeks ago today needs a whole new engine. I'm going to move over here to some picnic tables because there's a whole line of people waiting to take their picture in front of this sign back here. So after some more diagnostic testing, they determined that I probably blew a head gasket in the engine, and coolant had leaked into the oil, which got into the engine and was causing all these misfires. And basically, I just need an entirely new engine in my new van. It's going to take about 2 weeks to get a new engine into the van. I'm not going to be making it to Cherry Creek. So I rented a car, and now I'm on my way back home. It's a real bummer that these past 2.5 months have just been a series of just setback after setback after setback for me. It took so long for the insurance company to determine if my van that was in the accident was a total loss or not. And when they did finally determine that the van was totally wrecked, it left me very little time to buy a new van and get it built in time to get to the show. But I was so proud of myself for getting it done and ready in time and being on the way. And I really had lost my momentum not doing shows for almost 2.5 months, that it really took a lot for me to actually get back out on the road to head to my next show. And now to have this happen, it's just another problem in the way. And there are a lot of bright sides to this. I get to go home to my wonderful, loving family who's so supportive. And I'm super excited to be home with them and see them. And when the van broke down, it was like right at a Ford commercial vehicle service center, like one I've never seen before, a huge one that specializes in Ford commercial type vehicles like the Ford Transit I have. The engine for the van is under warranty, thank goodness, so it is going to be replaced, but the real loss here is not making it to the show, of course, is really a huge financial hit to me, of course, but also a huge hit to my morale. But I really have no choice other than to just keep going. And this whole situation reminded me of a story that they told on Bluey recently. And if you don't know Bluey, it's a kids show that's super popular right now. Milo barely watches any TV, but we occasionally watch Bluey with him. And they told this story that really stuck with me. Once upon a time, there was a farmer, and the farmer's horse ran away one day. And all the neighbors came over and said to the farmer, "That's such bad luck." And the farmer just looked at them and said, "We'll see." The very next day, the horse came back and brought 3 wild horses with it. Now the farmer has 4 horses. The neighbors came over and said, "Well, that's such good luck." And the farmer just looked at them and said, "We'll see." The very next day, the farmer's son went out and tried to ride one of the wild horses. The horse bucked up, kicked the son off the horse, and he broke his leg. The neighbors came over and said, "Well, that's such bad luck." And the farmer just looked at them and said, "We'll see." The very next day, a bunch of soldiers came to the village, and they took all the young men into the army. But they didn't take the farmer's son because he had a broken leg. And all the neighbors came over and said to the farmer, "Well, that's such good luck." And the farmer just looked at them and said, "We'll see."